All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Matt Biondi. I am the middle school director for Salem-Keizer Public Schools.
Matt Biondi ngang ewe director atske iwe sikol.
And we are going to start with a video that shows a little bit of what it looks like when your students return to school in 2 weeks.
Brako poputeri nekatore video ren ekis arabara ren agagen niviriti atske iwe sikol no ruik seri ikere.
Fredanim ebi familien utskeuta sukuna middle me high school. Ye siya wati sibwa porosa girikivi ige bui fausuna para pesukun nubu sibu bukude hybrid learning ige keo na sukun menayo. Era mwekubi keweran a fata bui kere karare kubwe toke na sukun noringwik. Meito wiri e bui teite uru me rueru ige teiten urigat me erimu. Me moram kubotorom na rewe sukun kubwe akuba ige mask. Amir fukuru tea opkebu furrie puriari suk me kewe kota rawas na rewe sukun abi obu petekun ori faso me uri sawal COVID-19. Kids me siri we kesiwi ebu fukun we resmoro. Nge kafen furri tamon me tots me we resnori faso sawal me kids me ruku we me togeri furrie. Wari amiru tea omna kuwai buburu botu meaum me ko saparatapa wan meso. Checheberi koko sopuri omna kuwa ite ren. Ike se wurawa kuwa iwe koko esidegeri eber kewe sense ike eber menno na ofesarre ko sidebe mano koko torom na sukun por repairi sukun. Nara yer e puede socorro op koko torom na ro sukun. Am torom e putakara wara wo cohort kuwi ike amwewit. No we principal e baptitiki wolu parosa nupo siarap niya faso secondary repere bubuta hybrid learning. Nupur ko potorong na ro sukun ko pokura erareri anom ekewe hand sanitizer le. At sumutin po po fukuni bat spong nuparom ka torong na ratio iwas sukun. Ko sewutin ko pokuro renareri sanitize up ko pwede vetipo. Kapato wili fukure po iteitan me hand sanitizer urusere warre. Ferite si po furre visual screening ratio po teki yobi sawal siya meron tiari awarinis. Kosewotin posapetto sukun igen me sawal areweringa. Kuri romo dokter are po rock me patcheveri amke po kuri office narongo sukun amke po esidegerir po sapwar. Lupun cafe nagiri amwe classroom po kuri akrario sun arrow wala simen. Ekara arrows right divolu yako po fe noye I cafeteria men na hallway. Feta ne peki na hallway me arisi are po menere. Checheberi amke po nom oru fit to wow seri zirom kewe. Nupen ko po toriam classroom ke pa kop to po me sanitizer ike korik ike iwe karo fots me yong besia. Ekot sukun repa kota etsa sukun resapto feri cek medicine atun ekesiwi class. E puede siare po menere no hallway. Eve tatsi kusini po no yer sisap mo ya suku ke vloggers. Ko puede sa kung iguro ka mo backpack nili ewi of your class. Ko po sa kapasa sawa. Ye ko sap menuki ang ko po we aturo mo krumpo po ko po do refer your project me warang awasay me narang classroom me rugura mo arong na tarope. Ko se wachet ko po biti reside geri rom na sense ike salaragen na sukun ike po ko se be fi petsekun ato sukun. Nung na sense po ay sukap ko pa ganin ni seri ke o salaragen ni seri rap na peke. Saragagi do sukun referri aragagi tubu mulu miru gurugu weni pecekut miru koram miti cara tagi eke utara reputu mulu we sapurkan fegen ne file sukun me sawal meke warese sawal siamen mesegi kredi o pwede wiruti atski sukun nuk ke sense meke ko saragagi sukun rano wike are pwede suk no atske miri fausilatsi peto we sukun mari faso e sawal ter COVID-19.
Great, thank you. And hopefully that video gave you some good information about what that first week of school will look like. On this slide here, you can see the dates for each grade level and their return to school in the next 2 weeks from now.
I'm sorry, Matt, can you repeat that, but 2 sentences at a time, please?
So, sure. So on this slide, you see when the different grade levels will be coming into school for their first days of in-person learning.
What is slide kategori of kibokura fansora no weta sikun e boriguriti sikun ren ewe hybrid learning. Diga bobta sikun nori we sikun.
So 6th graders and 9th and 10th graders come in on April 13th and 14th, and 7th and 8th grade. Go ahead.
Ren muijen waru me muijen etiwan me egoran kapapaputa e preda wa merigat ika e prain e wa meruari.
7th and 8th and 11th and 12th graders come in on the 15th and 16th of April.
Ren muijen sisu me waru pan muijen wa merve wa meru kapapaputa nore preda wa meru ika e preda wa moru.
On the next slide is a reminder of what hybrid learning looks like, where students are in school 2 days a week and at home 2 days a week.
Ere oru slide iwe a parata usun ewa ke non sikun me keron in.
Okay, to the next slide, please. Students will either come to school on Tuesday and Thursday or on Wednesday and Fridays.
Netkewe sa sikun rebe etora kewe we sikun everein oru me ruaru ika eurigat meribu.
And we have students in cohorts, so only half of the students come in on any one of those days.
Mayor netkewe sa sikun ranom non ru kuvi. Iwe repeto fiti kewe repetora kewe iwe sikun non evere kara ruran.
And this helps us support keeping students safe by only having half of the students come into school at any one time.
Ere arisia wagagen yamuri fatarin e sawal posible arisia te kirikin arbor turat. Sere wasemon.
On the next slide, you see a way that you can find out what cohort your student is in using parent view.
Me ware o slide category kura meni kirikin ika kubi no we fiti. Me wan ewe parent view.
And for this student is a cohort student on Tuesday and Thursday.
Nerere tasikun aperata pun arewe kubi ika cohort a sereri oru me ruari.
On the next slide, you can see how you can find out your student's cohort using the computer. And again, the student cohort is a Tuesday and Thursday cohort.
On memory slide, ka aperata of kepokuta memory parent view. Me work computer. Category kura ware student info. Nerere tasikun me pun oru me ruaru atun sikun.
It's very important for your student, your children, to be safe when they're in our schools.
Ame fokun etia and ebo turet senet kyoja sikun nupara repe niviriti sukun non iwe sikun.
All students will use hand sanitizer when they're entering the school and will wear face masks during the day.
Meris kyoja sikun repe togeri kewe iwe sikun repe teripe ngeri kewe hand sanitizer nupara torom no sikun repopan akuga ikaporu mask.
And students will maintain physical distancing and will frequently wash their hands or use hand sanitizer as they're going through their day.
Pan ahora ewe pagen nefin ika ewe agagen erefin sepojak pasa pura de teripe riteitan ika hand sanitizer urusere.
We are very confident that we can keep our children, your children, safe, our students safe, and we're working very closely with the Marion County Health Department to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to ensure safety.
Sa fakun nuku pun atewe nuku tun rere sawatef men aragarang wan kokotun ateruriti wasikun kisme pan arangeriewe Marion Health fen pekin turet nupara periviriti askewe wasikun.
A couple of calendar changes that you should know about. Next week, the quarter 3 ends on April 7th. That's a week from today.
Aparo records ekesiwin ren notes calendar. Ren ewe segoro ren non ewe rigati quarter ika kirikin asiwin ngeri epefisu.
And students in middle and high school will not have classes on April 8th or 9th, but elementary students do have classes on those days.
Rere keweta sikun non middle school ve high school. Sasap sikun fan brain waru ikatiu. Ngere kewe irmetu non elementary iwe irmeditek sabwera mesikun no karafe.
And there's no change in the calendar for students who go to EDGE.
Ekesiwin esepaku ekeweta sikunen non-EDGE.
So in order for us to do in-person learning, we had to change the bell schedule for students.
Ren atsibwe rere agagere ekesiwin ren niviriti kewe iwe sikun iwa paro ekesiwin ewe schedule feritenes keweta sikun.
Students will come in person 2 days a week.
Ekeweta sikun repueto no kewe iwe sikun ferru not a week.
Middle school starts at 8:45 and gets done at 1:45.
Ren ekeweta sikun in middle school repapapute kurok waru spek merivu iwe sef. What was the time that they get off? I'm sorry.
1:45?
Reposer eu spek merivu.
And all high schools, all high schools will start at 9:35 and be done at 2:35.
Rekeweta sikun in high school repapapute kurok tiu irik merivu faser ego meru spek merivu.
And Mondays will be the same as they are now for students and families.
Ngere Monday iwe ebetek sapora usun minne afis ngeri kewe sikun me kewe atskewe family.
So lots of information on this slide, but for middle schools, the class period will be around 50 minutes long.
Sen a slide iwe abwe ngere John middle school ire bolgugun niwe mirit. atu käy kewi wesikun.
And for high school, it's 60 minutes long.
Yere high school ire pe warrior virit.
Students will walk from class to class during the day.
Kewi tosikun ira repoja seigeri kewi class non nahren.
But they will not be able to use their lockers.
Yere setoria repoja kewi locker.
It's very important that students bring their Chromebooks and chargers to school each day.
Ame whakurotia and no words of sikun e porokia toro with Chromebook, but fitigeri ari with ati ngeri sikun I te terren.
And it's really important that the Chromebooks are charged up each night so that they're ready to go the next day.
Ame whakuparotia a repotati neuskewe Chromebook I te te puin mamma repot nageri I was sikun.
On the days where students are at home, those days will be the same really as they are now, with students working on lessons, working on homework, just as they are doing now.
Nakkewe rärin käverorin, ive kewe tassiku reposa puera vietra erike usun metra fefferin.
And there will be support for students during the day when they're at home if they need help with their classwork.
Evo paros erin niseriros kewe sense nupera ranom norim feras kewe asaiven ika askewe tekirke.
So this next slide shows a middle school schedule with an example of a student on a Tuesday-Thursday cohort.
Rere yaraparat rere middle school schedule ren evetasikun me käron oru me rueri.
And you can see the students are in person Tuesday and Thursday, and they have 5 periods, 5 classes that they go to during the day. And then they're at home on Wednesday and Friday.
Nore araparat sakura punnon oru me rueri. Aturar fitisukun nori wesikun. Iverren nore urigat me erivu. Aturar käy meron im.
And this next one is a high school schedule with a Wednesday and Friday cohort student. And you can see high schools have 4 periods in their day, not 5 like middle school.
Iverreri araparat rereven high school. Ereven high school schedule. Renon urigat me erivu. Kitmed kurabun. Ngeri ruari period eseu sun middle school fen evgeri period.
So some families are not comfortable having their students come into school, and so
Favori rese mo wana tageri roske watasikun afre borogeri askewe wesikun.
Jacqueline, can you switch the slide, please? Thank you. If you wish to remain in distance learning, please contact your school and they will discuss options for you.
Ika pueu favori etok motere potok software nesikun on computer. Iwe repoturi neskewe meirapen arrewesikun. Arrepo por fausngeri usuare cards options me peruveriar katasi.
Students who do not wish to come in person will be asked to enroll at Edge, and will have a new group of students and teachers for the rest of the year.
Keotasikun resetuen modernity ngeri iwasikun iwe epuere or esire singeri para no repository class epoparor ekesiwin resense.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of our formal presentation. And now we would like to take a moment to answer some questions that you may have regarding this information or other information that you have questions about.
Iwe kiri sojabur aja kira soporon je arab ika muitsferi kerai. Iwe fanson sa tagoriage sokur kapase sikavemef ikeo.
So one of the, oh,
Go ahead, Matt.
No, one of the questions we have is that we've been getting in these sessions is about transportation and about how to find out whether one, my student gets transportation and what is the bus route for the student.
E kapase or feriden sein sikun ika epoi fau surarera netskota sikun sepoi nageri arkewe wesikun ika pa nageri werkewe.
So we have Jacqueline and Emily from communications tonight that are helping us out, and they're fantastic. And Emily is going to show us how to access the information about transportation for your student.
Great, so I'm going to share my screen and I'll pause every couple of sentences for.
Sorry, sorry, Emily, can I just interpret what he just said? I'm sorry. Ren Jacqueline me Emily ikeir kewa dorarinis ren bege 6 sekund iwe Emily ye pure puerrigerikits ifausun of kebokura when no words of sekund are pofiti pasika 6 sekund. Go ahead.
Great. So to access transportation information, first thing you're going to do is navigate to the district website, which can be seen at this URL right here.
Then of kebokura no words of sekund 6 sekund kebokoram nageri website this sekund iwe emetori kura me ren asarian.
Next, you're going to navigate to the Parents tab, and then right here, there'll be an option to find school and bus route info.
You really got to click on that tab, may mark Parents. You got already na may mark Find School and Bus Route Info. Pero que pagura many bus no web city.
Right, we're going to select that. And it'll take us to our bus eligibility tool here. Here you'll select your grade level and then enter in your address. And then hit Find School Transportation Info. And it'll populate the page.
Find school, transportation info.
Here it'll show you if your address is eligible for transportation. And if it is, like this, as it shows, it'll give you a link to complete the rider registration, which all students will need to complete, or all families will need to complete for their students.
Me category kura ika no men eligible ika category are positi ke 6 sekund. Iwe category tiki one rider registration friend and no epe category fiti ke 6 sekund.
And it should be updated this evening, I'm told from our technology team, but this is also the page where your student would be able to see exact bus stop and route information.
Iwe red non era kuriarun ire por update seri kewe miraben kewe 6 sekund ren an epatori puerata ewe neri yare pue sori ve yawa wapas ikawa 6 sekund.
And again, that would be available no later than tomorrow, I'm being told.
Na category kura esap napis nesor ika ikere ikaresor.
Jacqueline, do you have another question for us?
Yes, so the first question is a two-part question.
Iwe me yore kapa 6 hu kirikiri re kapa 6.
So the question is, will a student congregate in the cafeteria during lunch?
Na ewe kapa 6 a eis ren ere tosikun ika ewe moga non ewe cafeteria non ato moga.
And the second part of the question is, what are the procedures around lunchtime?
Paro rue kapa 6 a kapa 6 feriten met sokun nikirik ika na para ewe kao ren function moga.
So students are still going to be expected to maintain 6 feet of physical distance from one another during lunch.
Ren adon moga lunch iwe epotek fokun or ewe anuk ren oru fit ere fin ne firen ewe meve tosikun.
All students have free breakfast, lunch, and supper available to them each day if they choose that.
Fen me si tosikun iwe kao mogan nesesor mogan norawas me paror mogan supper ika ira met rewoten.
Many schools are doing multiple lunches to reduce the number of students that are in the lunchroom at any time.
Samong mere kewe iwe sikun ra aura agagen moga fan fitu nare ren rare puyo or epotongin ike po rewagagen ere fin ren kewe tosikun para sepoga.
Another question? Did I get all those questions, Jacqueline, or is there something else?
No, it says, what are the procedures around lunchtime?
Well, each school will have their own procedures for lunchtime, and students will likely go down and pick up a sack lunch and either return to the classroom to eat, or will go to a designated spot in the cafeteria to eat their lunch.
Anyway, agagen lunchtime ika atun moga rekke otasikun iwe atakaragara ren aske iwe sikun ike pe faustuna parapan ika repwe agerer iwe raro boga meror aske class ika epwe o reverien moga me kovuro feriter.
So the next question is, how is the bathroom situation is going to work?
Students will have
kapa 6 feriten ifausun ren at ewe areve tosikure po use bathroom.
Students will be able to use the bathroom, and they will be cleaned with the COVID protocols every day. Schools will need to restrict the number of students that are in the bathroom at any one time.
Agagen areve tosikure po use kewe bathroom iwe men or agagen eriverim non urustena ren re me fiti anukure COVID iwe pa ren tsatsare bathroom epo paro tsaturu ike po fiteven repertoria ferry.
And students will be wearing masks, and we will emphasize hand washing and and use of hand sanitizer throughout the day.
Iwe rekewe tasikun repotek sapurore askewe akurai kapuru wa mas epo pan anuk puti asrepo sapurage terupus ika hand sanitizer narusere wasa.
Okay, another question, Jacqueline?
Yes. The next question is, when my student is in the in-person days, what time can I drop him off in the mornings?
Para capaces apa is feriten ire tatun evere potori chapiri neru sikun ngeri kewe sikun no kewe ren epo no geria kewe sikun.
Because of cohorting requirements, we really ask that students are not dropped off any earlier than 15 minutes before the start of the school day, where they can then pick up their breakfast and head to their classroom to eat their breakfast.
Then aragagere kirikin se cohort iwe satigos ngeri kewe mesam se sap chapiri nos kewe when ego meribu virit epita ego meribu virit etiro será repertorio ahora también se puede aguerres y raro gerías que class ika media que.
Very good. The next question says, will parents be notified if their children are exposed to someone who tested positive for COVID-19?
Para el capaces feritel ika e puedo curry ika sidegeri que ve mesan ren no rueta sikun no pueden are pues expose ngeri even men uri ever semari COVID.
Yes, is the answer to that question. And we have a team of staff that work very closely with the Marion County Public Health, and we're following those guidelines. But yes, we will be contacting parents in the school community when we have cases of COVID in our schools.
Superiores capaces y ewer e puedo agagen esiresin ngeri kewe inmesam me paror kewe kubi ismen agangeri ewe Marion County Public Health ren agaget tuburat me esiresin rere betsasikon no parare pulrio COVID merore atke wesikon.
And the second part of the question is, how soon will the notification come?
Well,
iret fanson repue esireto ne wetsasikon mer a expose ngerieben merufri. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you. I just want to answer Jackie's question. So that's a little hard to say. It's very quickly is the answer, as quickly as we can. And so it's just a matter of when we know about the issue, then the wheels will turn immediately on the communication for that. So usually that would be within 24 hours or like the next school day, then families would be notified if there was a situation in the school related to COVID.
Ike puedo even meriki otasikun e puede urir ewe COVID iwe kitmena totogeri nge puedo ragagen esiresin nge e puetok mutir nare ewe tekfel ika sorota.
Okay, so the next question says, how will passing time in the hallways take place?
Para capaces feriten atun sikun rera ke otasikun essay vera ke hallways.
So first of all, one thing to remember is that half of the students will be in the school any particular day. So that's helpful.
Kevin, mero men etsi potetseveri nge esap medisi ke otasikun rebo non nare sikun non ewe ke ren.
Some schools, when possible, are having hallways that have one-way traffic. That's not always possible, but they're doing that when they can.
One-way traffic ika ejek one way ren tasikura repwesei.
Schools are placing sort of dividers in the hallway, visual reminders to students to stay on one side of the hall or the other and to keep the middle part of the hallway clear.
Me paror sign is me patapata rare ke wasikon serare pwe atseva iri ke wasikon ika ya repoperian ika ya reposeya ika ya resapatowari asayan.
And remember that it takes 15 minutes of close contact within the 6 feet to be an issue with transmission. And so just simply passing one another in a hallway with two students who are masked up is not a way that COVID has been found to be transmitted in schools.
Ime sipo pateteveri nye ren ewe COVID arepwe terceri even ngeri even iwe ego meri wuvirit arepwe tori arepwe meri reponosegen arepwe tori yuri ewe sawa ida popun rerar a safe tegeri ke a safe esen mero kewe hallway iwe sareku nye eseor semwari ike sabor semwari.
Okay, the next question is, how does the update school bus seating chart will look like?
Kapasei feriten kewe seisigun e poi fasokun kewe tasiku repuamat mere fenwar kewe bas.
Many of our buses are set up really nicely to keep kids apart because they have those high backs on the seats, so that helps stop transmission.
Was kewe bas ikasei sigun aur kewe sea me fokun or arefin ren ika kukuta kewe sea de busin reare sabor begin someone evopan nogeri even.
And whenever possible, students will be, well, there'll be one child per seat, and even having children sit opposite, like stagger across the aisles, across the rows when possible.
Kitsu para totogori ebwe or ebe tsasikun nye ewa sea pusin ika kitsu me pasferi arebor wette arefin ren kewe tsasikun no puera repwe mamot me kewe sea.
And all students would have their masks on, and we would ask that students do not come to school at all if they're sick.
Pan medisi kewe tsasikun sepapan soperoras kewe gulai ka por wamdas pan ngeri kewe irmen me fise mari ka waringa sa te ko nger sap eto ngeri at kewe wasikun.
Very good. The next question is, will students have PE?
Pare kapaseis verite tsasikun ika eporas PE.
Yes, students will have PE. I would expect that it's modified a little bit because we are not expecting at this time to use locker rooms or to have students dressed down.
Ewa ren PE iwe epotakor ewa gaget PE ni sare ku epo records ekesiwin pokiten netko tasikur reservatoria ke locker ika rena popun iwe reservatoria ropan siwiriser.
So the next question is, about how many students are expected to be in school at one time?
Kapaseis feriten tsasikun ika epwe Siteve tsasikun, reposit naagerikke sikun naaleuse.
Well, we would expect no more than half of the students that are enrolled in that school to be there at any one time. And remember, we also have, in addition to that, we have students that are in our online learning program EDGE as well. So that has reduced the enrollment numbers too.
Vere tsasikun saariku nye esapna beseri half ika okke pekriye tirorrung ren tsasikun repuettorare ren säriten ihmen uvura atura rettogerikke sikun. Ive sapatetseveri neve paroskeve tsassikurra firätäge repuretek sapirore käyron edge ika käyrori wer warnerkeve computer.
The next question is, can my student bring their own snacks and water bottles?
Ikkapa seis färite tsasikun ika reputori pusiruo eref avatur ika pusin as merien korik.
That's going to be a great question to talk to your local school about. Typically, most schools allowed water bottles to be brought in, so I think that would still be the case.
Arikura kapasei sa tori sipue avarageri pusin eve ke sikuri aro vuota sikura sikurian serok ke pesirei ika reputori wo avatur ne ren korik ariku irmettori repopusirwei as merier korik.
Very good. The next question is, the incoming 6th and 9th graders never got a chance to visit the school in the spring or during the summer. How are you going to help them get familiar with the building?
Arikapaseis färitekewe tsasikun repokarif ettogeri overuwe muit me etiwe muit. Esse woratu repue mo kukurewe wasikun epue falsura repue arisi ren as repuetori sirei satarir ika ren non non arrewe wasikun.
So typically we don't have the students on campuses of their, like 8th graders are not on a high school campus prior to their first day of school. So that would be fairly unusual for us.
Can you explain that a little more? Sorry.
Typically, we don't have, even under normal situations, we do not have the ability to take all of our 8th graders and put them on a high school campus prior to the start of the year.
Okay. Iwe na pegeri pan usurutak iteitan met me fifis es rekewe avaruwe muit awewe tak rekewe avaruwe muit iwe separo raturat sipo we ngeri kewererien high school mumura repopopute sikun.
But what we do think about very deeply is those first few days of trying to support students who are new to the campus.
Iwe sarku me metsaerari fen kewe fitu rear rekarrepoputare fifitisikun eposisnye pan as repue togeri sire tu arkewe nerie sikun me arkewe class.
So I would expect the first week or even the first 2 weeks of in-person learning to really be all about supporting students in their transition to school.
Eriku meron ewe ewin me oruwe week eposisnye pan e agagen arrepue siretu arrewe weshikun ika iaras kewe class ranovia.
So the first 2 weeks of school in April are going to be a lot about making sure students know the safety expectations, and we practice them.
Sen kewe ruik poputan April iwe sa moten ngeret kewe toshiku repue ako me Calgary ika sire usun anugun ar agage sikun serare por tuburet sere seman.
And reconnecting them with what it means to be back in school and making sure that their social and emotional needs are met. That's going to be the number one. Those are the two big priorities to start with in-person learning.
Sa paratiari a repue poputari a sikun nora repue siretu a ewereri sikun me para repopan poputa sefen me sikun ngeri even me vekkeota sikun.
Very good. Next question is, will students and staff be required to wear a mask?
Rekkapaseis färiten keota sikun me keota ragagere weiwa sikun. Ika if men required a repue a akuga ika poru nuamas.
Yes.
Ewa.
So the next, this is a follow-up of that question. If my student doesn't have a mask, will the school provide one for him or her?
Ikä suoraan jota siku poru nuamas ika akuga ewe neria sikun epotoria ora.
Yes, schools will have a limited supply of masks, and they can support that need for students as needed.
Ewa mero ratkewe erinis ren tekin aura akuga ika poru nuamas ika satoria risigeri keota sikun nupuen asaponit.
The follow-up on that question is, are you going to send out masking guidelines to families?
Parekapaseis färiten kewe akuga ika poru nuamas epo paror tekin esiresin ngeri kewe family ren agagen asapue a.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, but we have been very clear in all of our messaging, including tonight, that masks are required. And when we talk about masks, we talk about a mask that goes completely over the nose and all the way over the mouth. So it has to be that kind of a mask.
Kewe akuga ika poru nuamas iwe sa tiwahne epue poru seri potun eota sikun ettiwarawan sen arepor tekitturet.
They're gonna drop off a mask and then I come back.
Great. And Emily is showing us in the website at the school district, it has some information about mask wearing.
Iwe melive tacheta ware screen usun agagere reveto sikure pue a mask ika me paros ke kapaseis me peruan me ware website ren eosikun.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, so Emily.
And the last question I have is, do you have anything set up to help students with anxiety?
Seguro akapaseis ika meros sokun arinis ika pekir arinis ngeri kewato sikun men or as anxiety.
Yes, the full range of school supports will be available to students. That includes all of the counselors, the other support personnel will be in this school and available for students when we're back in person.
Ewe meros kewe counselors me pan someone kewe son arimis ren peki tuguritsasikon ren asabwe arisi even me kewe tsasikon non met talk about it arnit ren anxiety.
Very good. Another question we can ask is, if my student is not feeling well when he's at school, what is the procedure?
Para says feriten ewe tsasikon ika nuperare pagesti ne semwen merara arewe wasikon iwe vete potogori ferri.
So when students enter the school, they will be visually screened by staff, each and every student as they come in.
Lupa kewe tsasikon repertori arewe wasikon iwe kewe sense repwe atara repwe negerifiti ika menor sakon sawa repwe screeneris non repwe screeneris meres.
And if a student is sick and looks sick or expresses that they're sick, then there is a procedure. There is a isolation room, a health room that students will be directed to, will be taken to, and just a process will be gone through there to find out some more information. Parent, guardian will be contacted. And more than likely, that student would be going home.
Iverupuen erwe sensei ka ewetan turio tasukuri ka rakurage evenmen semwen iwe epoyor metre prefer kirikiri metre preferi akowan ira repue emwerigeri kewe room akobura feriterian mene figuringa ikasawag sepopan kekeri kewe innesan iwe repue nogeri iwe.
And each middle school and high school will be having their own informational night for parents?
They stage kewe middle school, the high school, e popusiror as muit ngeri kewe in mesam.
Well, we thank everybody for listening to this video, and hopefully it answered some of your questions. And as Jacqueline just said, please tune in to your local schools information session for more specific details on your school and what they're doing to keep your students safe, and what their in-person learning looks like specific to their school. Good night, everybody.
Kiriso very sin tafifiti a David. Kiriso jabur sa tigor nge borom kada seis usun meteo Jacqueline apesa nge kepe kakari away was anowe neria sikun herop kipusire titigin me porosen as agagen turat ren eseman. Kiriso jabur.